The lawyer's pen clicked 3 times before he slid the papers across his mahogany desk, and I absolutely knew, my life was about to shatter. "I'm sorry, Miss Taylor," he said, not meeting my eyes. "The funds have already been transferred. My name is Taylor Harper, and I'm about to tell you how my family destroyed me, how they smiled while doing it, and how I smiled back before I burned their perfect world to the ground. But let me back up. Let me tell you who I was before that Tuesday afternoon in a lawyer's office that smelled like old books and broken promises. I'm 30 years old, a registered nurse at County General Hospital. I work the overnight shift in the emergency room because it pays an extra $2 per hour, and those $2 matter when you've been supporting yourself since you were 18. I live in a 600-square-foot apartment on the south side, the kind of place where the heater clanks all winter and the neighbor's TV bleeds through the walls. I drive a 2009 Honda Civic with a crack in the windshield I keep meaning to fix. I'm the eldest daughter, the responsible one, the one who got average grades and an average face and average everything, standing in the shadow of my younger sister Madison, who sparkled from birth like she'd been dipped in starlight. Our grandmother, Helen Harper, loved me anyway. Maybe loved me more because I needed it. She died 6 weeks ago. Pancreatic cancer. I held her hand through the worst of it, taking unpaid leave from work, sleeping in the hospital recliner, helping her to the bathroom at 3 in the morning when the nurses were stretched too thin. Madison visited twice. Both times she left after 20 minutes because hospitals made her anxious, and she had to protect her mental energy. Grandma had whispered to me the night before she died, her papery hand squeezing mine with surprising strength. "This is for you, Gracie. Build something beautiful. You deserve beautiful things." She meant the inheritance. $250,000. 30 years of double shifts at the hospital where she worked as a surgical nurse. 30 years of skipping vacations, clipping coupons, wearing the same winter coat until it frayed at the cuffs. Money she'd promised to me. Money that would let me finally get ahead. Now, sitting across from her lawyer, I stared at the documents, watching the words blur and reform. Transferred to Madison Taylor Harper. My sister. How? My voice came out strangled, small. Grandma's will specifically named me as the sole beneficiary. The lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, shifted uncomfortably. Your parents are listed as co-executors. They made the decision jointly to redirect the funds. He cleared his throat. For Madison's wedding expenses. The air conditioning hummed. Someone laughed in the hallway outside. My fingernails dug crescents into my palms. Her wedding, I repeated flatly. Yes, I believe it's scheduled for next month at the Riverside Estate. Quite an elaborate affair, from what I understand. Your parents felt this was in the best interest of the family's future. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I like to know how far my stories are reaching, and a like and subscribe means a lot to small channels like ours and will keep these stories coming. Now let's continue. I drove home in silence, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The city blurred past, coffee shops where I'd studied for my nursing exams, the community college where I'd taken night classes while working full-time, the apartment building where I'd lived in that tiny studio because I was saving, always saving, for the future grandma believed I deserved. Madison still lived at home. 24 years old, sleeping in her childhood bedroom with the walk-in closet and the ensuite bathroom and the balcony overlooking Mom's rose garden. She'd never paid rent, never bought her own groceries, never understood what it meant to choose between fixing your car and eating something other than ramen for a month. My phone buzzed. Mom. Family dinner tonight. 6 p.m. Don't be late. I almost laughed. Almost. I went home first. Changed out of the work scrubs I'd thrown on that morning. Put on jeans and a sweater. Stared at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the hollow-eyed woman looking back. When had I gotten so tired? When had the lines around my mouth deepened like that? The house looked the same as always. Pristine white columns, manicured lawn, my father's Mercedes in the circular driveway next to Madison's brand new Audi. That car had been a gift. 50,000 Instagram followers meant more to my parents than my nursing degree ever had. I used my key. The smell hit me first. Roasted chicken, rosemary, the vanilla candles Mom bought in bulk from that expensive boutique downtown. Madison's laugh echoed from the dining room, high and bright like wind chimes. They were already seated. All of them. Mom in her cream cashmere sweater. Dad in his golf polo. Madison in something designer, off the shoulder, her honey blonde hair falling in perfect waves. And him. Carter. Madison's fiancé. The man I'd introduced to my family 2 Christmases ago when he was my boyfriend. That betrayal had been the first. This one was just more expensive. Taylor. Mom's smile was camera-ready, all teeth and no warmth. Finally. We're celebrating. Madison bounced in her seat, her engagement ring catching the chandelier light. 3 carats. Platinum band. I recognized it. I'd looked at rings like that once, back when I thought Carter and I had a future. Back when he'd told me I was the one. Back before he met my sister at Thanksgiving and apparently decided he preferred the upgrade. The venue accepted our deposit, Madison squealed. The Riverside Estate. Can you believe it? It's the most exclusive wedding location in the state. We're having the ceremony in the garden pavilion and the reception in the grand ballroom. 400 guests. My father poured champagne into crystal flutes. Only the best for our little star. Carter's eyes met mine for half a second. He looked away first. Coward. I sat down slowly in the empty chair. The one at the end. Always the end. That's wonderful, I said. And Taylor, Mom reached across the table, squeezing my hand with her cold fingers. You'll be a bridesmaid, of course. Madison specifically requested you. How generous, I managed. The words tasted like copper. We know you've been struggling financially, Dad said, cutting into his chicken with surgical precision. So we'll cover the dress expenses. The shoes too. It's only fair. Struggling. I worked 60-hour weeks at the hospital. I hadn't bought new clothes in 8 months. I ate meal-prepped chicken and rice because it was cheap and efficient. I hadn't had a vacation in 3 years. Madison spent $300 on a single brunch last week. I'd seen the Instagram post. Actually, about money, I kept my voice level measured. I met with Grandma's lawyer today. The table went quiet. Mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Dad's jaw tightened. Oh, sweetie. Mom's voice dripped with practiced sympathy. We meant to talk to you about that. It's just, Madison's wedding is such an important milestone. Such a special occasion. Grandma would have wanted this. Family is everything, you know that. Grandma left that money to me. The will gave us discretion as executors. Dad's tone had turned sharp, the one he used with incompetent employees. We made an executive decision. Madison's marrying into the Whitmore family. Carter's father owns half the commercial real estate downtown. This wedding is an investment in all our futures. These connections matter. Surely you can understand that. Carter stared at his plate. Silent. Useless. Besides, Madison's voice went saccharine, that little girl sweetness she used when she wanted something. You're not exactly doing anything important with your life, Gracie. You're just a nurse. I'm building a brand. This wedding will be featured in 4 major magazines. That's exposure worth hundreds of thousands. It helps the whole family. Just a nurse. The chandelier crystals tinkled softly in the air conditioning. Someone's phone buzzed. I stood up. Where are you going? Mom demanded. We haven't even had dessert. I made your favorite, lemon cake. I'm not hungry. I walked out, down the marble hallway, past the family photos where Madison's smile got bigger as mine got smaller, out the front door into the cool evening air. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. I sat in the driveway, watching the warm light spill from the dining room windows, watching their silhouettes move and laugh and celebrate their victory. Then I opened my banking app. $17,000. My emergency fund. 5 years of saving every spare penny, every extra shift, every tax return. I Googled Riverside Estate contact information and dialed before I could talk myself out of it. A woman answered on the third ring. Riverside Estate, this is Jennifer speaking. Hi. I understand you recently accepted a deposit for a wedding next month. The Harper Whitmore wedding. Yes. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Are you calling about vendor coordination? Actually, I smiled in the darkness of my car. I'd like to discuss purchasing your venue. The entire property. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, what? Your venue. I want to buy it. All of it. The estate, the grounds, everything. I can have financing arranged by Monday morning. My phone lit up with a text before she could respond. From a number I didn't recognize. Before you do something you'll regret, you should know what really happened the night your grandmother changed her will. Meet me at Fisher's Diner. Midnight. Come alone. The message included a photo. My grandmother's signature. On a document I'd never seen. Dated 3 days before she died. When she was already unconscious in the ICU. When she couldn't have signed anything. Fisher's Diner sat on the edge of downtown, the kind of place where truckers and insomniacs crossed paths over burnt coffee and pie that tasted like cardboard. The neon sign flickered, FSHR's Dina, casting red shadows across the cracked parking lot. I pulled in at 11:58. My hands hadn't stopped shaking since I left my parents' house. The photo on my phone burned in my mind. Grandma's signature. 3 days after she'd slipped into that final coma, morphine dripping into her veins while I held her hand and sang the lullabies she used to sing to me. Someone had forged her name. Someone had changed her will while she lay dying. The diner smelled like grease and disinfectant. A handful of customers scattered across the booths, a trucker hunched over his phone, 2 teenagers sharing fries, an elderly woman doing a crossword puzzle. The waitress, a tired-looking woman with gray roots showing through bottle-blonde hair, barely glanced up as I entered. Then I saw him. Corner booth. Baseball cap pulled low. Hands wrapped around a coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping him warm. I knew that posture. Those shoulders. Carter. My feet stopped moving. The door chimed behind me, and he looked up. His face was pale, drawn. Dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Taylor. His voice cracked. Thank God you came. I slid into the booth across from him, my purse clutched in my lap like a shield. You sent that text. I had to. I couldn't. He ran his hand through his hair, the same nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when we were together. I couldn't let you do something crazy without knowing the truth. The truth. I leaned forward. You mean about the forged signature? About how someone faked Grandma's will while she was unconscious? He flinched. It's worse than that. The waitress appeared, refilled his coffee, looked at me with raised eyebrows. I ordered black coffee I didn't want, just to make her leave. The silence stretched between us like a wound. Why are you here, Carter? Guilty conscience finally kicking in? Or did Madison send you to make sure I don't ruin her perfect wedding? Madison doesn't know I'm here. His jaw tightened. And she can't know. If she finds out, I told you. Told me what? He pulled out his phone, fingers trembling as he scrolled. Then he slid it across the table. It was a video. Grainy, shot from a weird angle like it had been recorded secretly. The timestamp read 6 weeks ago. 2 days before Grandma died. I pressed play. The video showed my parents' living room. Mom and Dad on the sofa, Madison perched on the armrest. And standing behind them, barely visible in the frame, Carter, holding the phone. My father's voice came through tinny but clear. The lawyer said if we act now, while she's incapacitated, we can file an amendment as co-executors. Helen won't know the difference. Mom's laugh was sharp. Taylor certainly won't fight it. She never fights for anything. What about the signature? Madison's voice, sweet and poisonous. The lawyer needs Helen's signature to make it legal. A pause. Then my father, I've been managing Helen's finances for years. I have samples of her signature on dozens of documents. My vision blurred. The coffee mug swam in and out of focus. Keep watching, Carter whispered. Madison leaned forward in the video, her face animated. How much are we talking? 250,000, Dad said. More than enough for your wedding. The Riverside Estate, the dress you wanted, the honeymoon in Bali. All of it. And Taylor just, what? Gets nothing. There was no sympathy in Madison's voice. Just curiosity. Taylor is taken care of, Mom said dismissively. She has her little nursing job. She doesn't need anything else. She's not the one building a future. You are. This is an investment in the family's legacy. The video ended. I sat there, staring at the blank screen. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. The diner sounds, clinking dishes, the hiss of the grill, someone's phone ringing, all of it faded to static. I recorded it by accident, Carter said quietly. I was trying to text you, actually. That night. I'd been thinking about us, about what I'd done. The phone was in my shirt pocket and the video app opened somehow. I didn't even know I'd captured this until 2 days later. I looked up at him. Really looked. His eyes were red-rimmed. His shirt was wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Why? My voice came out hoarse. Why are you showing me this now? Why didn't you come forward when it happened? Because I'm a coward. He laughed bitterly. Because Madison's father-in-law is about to make me a partner in his firm. Because I told myself it wasn't my business. Because his voice broke. Because I convinced myself that you'd be fine. That you didn't need the money as much as Madison did. You let them steal from me. Yes. You're marrying my sister while knowing she helped steal my inheritance. Yes. And now you're here because, what? You want absolution? You want me to tell you it's okay? No. He met my eyes. I'm here because you deserve to burn them all down. And because I can't live with this anymore. The waitress brought my coffee. I wrapped my hands around it, letting the heat scald my palms. Does Madison love you? I asked. Or do you know it's just about the money and connections? His silence was answer enough. I loved you, I said. When I introduced you to my family, I actually thought we'd get married someday. I thought you were different. Better. I know. And you threw me away for her. For them. For a partnership at a law firm and a wife with Instagram followers. I know. I stood up. Threw a $5 bill on the table for the coffee I hadn't touched. Send me that video. Taylor, wait. Send it. Now. He fumbled with his phone. Mine buzzed. The file downloaded. 43 seconds of my family plotting to steal my grandmother's dying wish. What are you going to do? Carter asked. I smiled. It felt strange on my face, like trying on someone else's skin. I'm going to give Madison the wedding she deserves. I left him sitting there, walked out into the cool night air. The parking lot was empty except for my Honda and Carter's Mercedes. I got in my car, pulled out my phone, and opened my banking app again. $17,000. Not enough to buy the Riverside Estate outright. Not even close. But enough for a down payment. Enough to start negotiations. Enough to make them sweat. I called the estate back. Jennifer answered, sounding confused. Hello? I wasn't expecting. I'm serious about the purchase, I said. I have documentation proving fraud in the current wedding booking. I'm prepared to offer earnest money tonight. I need a meeting with the property owner. Tomorrow morning. The owner doesn't typically. Tomorrow morning. Or I take this to every news outlet in the city. Trust me, the story about a bride using stolen inheritance money for her dream wedding will go viral in about 6 seconds. A long pause. I'll make a call. She hung up. My phone rang immediately. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Dad. Then Madison. Then Carter again. I turned the phone on silent and drove. Not home. Not yet. I drove to the hospital where Grandma had worked for 30 years. Where she'd died. Where I'd held her hand and promised I'd make her proud. The night shift was in full swing. I badged in through the employee entrance, took the stairs to the 4th floor. The oncology wing. Her floor. The nurses' station was quiet. Rebecca, one of the senior nurses, looked up from her charting. Taylor, what are you doing here? You're not on schedule tonight. I know. I needed to see something. She nodded. She'd been there the night Grandma died. She understood. I walked down the hall to room 447. Someone else was in there now, sleeping fitfully while machines beeped and hummed. But I could still see Grandma there, still hear her voice. Build something beautiful. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer at the Riverside Estate. The owner will meet you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Come prepared. Another buzz. An email notification. From a name I didn't recognize. Detective Sarah Mitchell, Fraud Division. Miss Harper, we received an anonymous tip regarding potential forgery of estate documents connected to Helen Harper's will. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. Carter. He'd sent the video to the police. I stood in that hospital hallway, phone in hand, and felt something shift inside my chest. Like a door I'd kept locked for years finally blowing open. They'd stolen from me, lied to me, dismissed me, treated me like I was nothing, just a nurse. Not important, not worth protecting. My phone lit up again. This time, an unknown number. A text with a single attachment. I opened it. It was a bank statement. Not mine. Madison's. And the balance showed $250,000, deposited 6 days ago. Below it, a message. She withdrew $50,000 in cash yesterday. Thought you'd want to know. A friend. I stared at that number. $50,000 in cash. What was Madison buying that she didn't want anyone to trace? My hands steadied. My breathing slowed. The shaking stopped. I walked out of the hospital, got in my car, and started making a list of everything I needed to do before 9 a.m. tomorrow. First, lawyer. Second, bank. Third, revenge. The night wasn't over. It was just beginning. The meeting at Riverside Estate started at 9 a.m. sharp, but I'd been awake since 4, sitting in my car outside the property gates watching the sun rise over manicured gardens that cost more to maintain than I made in a year. The owner, Richard Castellano, turned out to be a silver-haired man in his 60s who looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne advertisement. He sat across from me in his office, a space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate grounds, and studied me with the kind of expression you'd give a child asking to buy the moon. "Miss Harper." He folded his hands on his mahogany desk. "Jennifer mentioned you're interested in purchasing the property." "That's correct. May I ask why, He glanced at the notes Jennifer had taken. "A registered nurse making approximately $60,000 a year wants to buy a $12 million estate?" I pulled out my phone and showed him Carter's video. Watched his expression change as my father's voice filled the room, discussing forged signatures and stolen inheritance like they were discussing the weather. When it ended, I showed him the email from Detective Mitchell. Then the bank statement showing Madison's $50,000 cash withdrawal. "My family stole my grandmother's inheritance to pay for a wedding at your venue," I said. "That makes you an accessory to fraud. Unless you'd like to work with me instead of against me." His jaw tightened. "That sounds like a threat." "It's a business proposal." I leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to cancel Madison's wedding contract. Breach of contract, vendor issues, plumbing emergency, I don't care what excuse you use. Then you're going to rent me the venue for the same date, same time, same everything." "And why would I do that?" "Because Detective Mitchell is waiting for my call. Because this video goes viral in about 30 seconds if I don't get what I want. Because the Riverside Estate hosting a wedding funded by elder fraud is the kind of publicity that destroys businesses like yours." I smiled. "Or you can work with me, and I make this all disappear. Your choice." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What's the rest of your plan?" "That's my business. If I'm going to be complicit in whatever revenge scheme you're cooking up, I need to know I'm not going to end up on the evening news." "Fair point," I told him. When I finished, he actually laughed. It started as a chuckle and built into a full belly laugh that shook his shoulders. "Your sister is going to lose her mind," he said, wiping his eyes. "All right. You've got a deal. But I want front row seats to the fallout." We shook on it. By noon, Madison's contract was terminated. By 2 p.m., my rental agreement was signed. By 4 p.m., every vendor she'd booked had received a call from the estate's event coordinator with a very specific set of new instructions. By 6 p.m., my phone was exploding. 17 missed calls from Madison. 23 from Mom. 9 from Dad. 12 from Carter. I listened to exactly one voicemail. Madison, her voice shrill with panic. "What did you do?" "They canceled everything. The venue, the caterer, the florist, everything. This is your fault, isn't it? You jealous, pathetic." I deleted it and blocked her number. The next 3 weeks were a blur. I worked my hospital shifts. I met with Detective Mitchell and gave her everything. The video, the forged signature, the timeline. I watched as she opened an official investigation into estate fraud. I met with Grandma's lawyer, the one who'd slid those papers across his desk and told me the money was gone. Showed him the video. Watched him go pale. "I didn't know," he stammered. "Your father said Helen had verbally expressed wishes to save it," I said. "You're going to file an emergency motion to freeze Madison's access to those funds pending the fraud investigation. And you're going to do it today." He did. Madison's bank account was frozen by end of business. The $200,000 still in there, she'd already spent 50 grand in cash on God knows what, was now locked tight. The cash she'd already spent? Gone. Untraceable. A problem for her and her alone. Carter called from a different number. I answered this time. "Taylor, please. Madison's having a breakdown. She won't eat, won't sleep. Your mother had to give her a sedative." "Good," I said. "This is going too far. Too far." I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to my own ears. "She stole from a dying woman. She helped forge legal documents. She spent $50,000 of my inheritance on God knows what and didn't lose a single night of sleep over it. But sure, I'm the one going too far. I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Carter. I'm done. I hung up. The day of the wedding arrived like Christmas morning. I put on the bridesmaid dress Madison had picked out, a hideous seafoam green thing that washed out anyone who wasn't blonde. Did my makeup. Curled my hair. Looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked dangerous. The Riverside Estate was decorated exactly as Madison had requested. White roses everywhere. String lights in the trees. A champagne fountain by the pavilion. The grand ballroom set for 400 guests with centerpieces that cost more than my monthly rent. I arrived at 3 p.m., 2 hours before the ceremony. The parking lot was already filling up. The Whitmore family, Carter's wealthy, well-connected family, arriving in their Mercedes and Teslas and one actual Bentley. Madison was in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids, when I walked in. She looked beautiful, I had to admit. Her dress was custom Vera Wang, her makeup flawless, her hair styled in soft waves that had probably taken 3 hours. She saw me and her face went cold. You have some nerve showing up here. I'm a bridesmaid, I said cheerfully. Where else would I be? You tried to ruin my wedding. Her voice shook. You called the police. You got my bank account frozen. I did what Grandma would have wanted me to do. I smiled. I fought back. The investigation will show we did nothing wrong, Mom cut in, appearing at Madison's elbow like a designer-clad guardian angel. We had every legal right to redirect those funds. You're just bitter because you've never accomplished anything worth celebrating. I checked my watch. 3:30. You might want to head down to the ceremony site. Guests are arriving. Madison's eyes narrowed. Why are you being so calm? Because I'm happy for you, I said. Really? You're getting exactly what you deserve. They left in a flurry of silk and hairspray. I waited in the bridal suite alone, watching through the window as guests filled the white chairs on the lawn. As Madison took her position at the back of the aisle. As the string quartet started playing, my phone buzzed. Jennifer from the estate. It's time. I walked downstairs and found Richard Castellano waiting in the hallway. Everything's ready, he said. Are you sure about this? Completely. We walked to the pavilion together. The ceremony had just started. Madison was halfway down the aisle, her face radiant, her dress trailing behind her like a cloud. Carter stood at the altar looking like he might throw up. The officiant began, Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. The music cut off. The lights went dark. And my voice came through the sound system, loud and clear. Actually, we're gathered here for something else entirely. The screens positioned around the pavilion, meant to show the ceremony to guests in the back, flickered to life. Carter's video played. 43 seconds of my parents and Madison plotting to steal my inheritance. My father's voice discussing forged signatures. Mom's laughter. Madison asking, and Taylor just gets nothing, without an ounce of remorse. 400 guests watched in silence. When it ended, the lights came back on. Madison stood frozen in the aisle, her face chalk white. Mom had her hand over her mouth. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Carter's father, the powerful real estate mogul, stood up from the front row. Carter, get your things. We're leaving. Dad, I can explain. Now. The Whitmores walked out. 30 other guests followed. I stepped out onto the pavilion, still in my seafoam green bridesmaid dress, and picked up the microphone the officiant had dropped. Hi everyone, I said. I'm Taylor, the bride's sister, the woman they stole from. And I just wanted you all to know, this wedding is officially cancelled. But please, stay for the reception. The food's already paid for, and it would be a shame to waste it." Madison let out a sound somewhere between a scream and a sob. "You psychotic bitch," she shrieked, lunging for me. Mom caught her. "Madison, don't. Not in front of. I don't care." Tears streamed down Madison's face, ruining her makeup. "She ruined everything. My wedding, my reputation, Carter." "You ruined it yourself," I said quietly. "The moment you decided stealing from a dying woman was acceptable." Dad stepped forward, his face purple. "You have no idea what you've done. The legal consequences of this stunt will be nothing compared to the legal consequences you're facing," I said. "Detective Mitchell sends her regards, by the way. She'll be contacting you next week about the fraud investigation." I handed the microphone to Richard and walked toward the exit. Behind me, Madison collapsed, sobbing. Mom rushed to her side. Dad stood there, frozen, as guest after guest filed out, whispering and staring. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better. Carter." I deleted it. Another text came through immediately. This one from Detective Mitchell. "Arrest warrants being prepared for your parents. Fraud, forgery, theft. Madison's cooperating in exchange for immunity. Thought you'd want to know." So Madison had thrown Mom and Dad under the bus to save herself. How perfectly on brand. I walked through the estate gardens, past the champagne fountain and the white roses, and found my car in the parking lot. Sat in the driver's seat and just breathed for the first time in weeks. My phone rang. "Rebecca from the hospital. Taylor? I heard what happened. The videos everywhere. Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said. And meant it. "I'm okay." "Good. Because we have a position opening up. Nurse manager. Better hours, better pay. I put your name forward. Figured you could use some good news." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Thank you." I drove home as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. My apartment looked the same as always, small, cramped, with the crack in the bathroom tile and the heater that clanked. But it was mine. Paid for with my own money, my own work, my own sweat. The inheritance was still tied up in legal proceedings. It would be months before I saw a penny. Maybe years. But Madison's wedding was destroyed. My parents were facing criminal charges. Carter had lost his partnership and his bride in one fell swoop. And me. I had my integrity. My dignity. My grandmother's voice in my head. Build something beautiful. I opened my laptop and started researching nursing programs. Master's degrees. Specializations. The future I'd always wanted but never thought I could afford. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Richard Castellano. "The reception's still going. Catering staff says about 60 people stayed. They're eating $50,000 worth of food and having a great time. Thought you'd appreciate the irony." $50,000. The exact amount Madison had withdrawn in cash. She'd prepaid the catering to make sure everything was perfect. And now strangers were enjoying the meal she'd bought with my stolen inheritance. I smiled, closed my phone, and got to work building something beautiful. Just like Grandma wanted.